eBay may be a shark in the ocean, but I am a crocodile in the Yangtze River. When Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, dropped that quote back in the early 2000s, he wasn't just throwing shade at a massive Western rival. He was actually laying out a completely different playbook for business survival and dominance. You really have to picture the sheer scale of the Goliath he was up against here. At the time, eBay was the undisputed global heavyweight champion of e-commerce. By 2003, they had essentially bought their way into China, controlling a staggering 85% of the early online market. They had deep pockets, they had global brand recognition, they were the apex shark. But Jack Ma understood something absolutely crucial. The Chinese market wasn't an ocean, it was a complex, unpredictable, dangerously fast-moving river. And to win there, you couldn't just copy-paste a Western business model and hope for the best. You had to evolve into a totally different kind of predator, custom-built for those exact waters.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking exactly how that crocodile actually took over the river. We're going to look at how Alibaba didn't just build a simple retail website, they architected an entire sovereign digital economy. We'll break down the specific structural strategy that turned Alibaba into a global superpower, systematically dismantled eBay's monopoly in China, and completely redefined what it means to build a digital platform. And it all really comes down to this brilliant mechanism known as the Iron Triangle.
Section 1. The Blueprint, the Iron Triangle.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To really grasp Alibaba's sheer dominance, we have to look at the foundational blueprint of their business. They realized super early on that in a rapidly developing digital market, you just can't rely on third parties to handle the heavy lifting. The infrastructure simply didn't exist yet. So they built the foundational pillars themselves. Look at how these three pieces interlock. First, you've got e-commerce, which is your Taobao and Tmall. This is the vibrant digital bazaar, the place where millions of buyers and sellers actually hang out. Next, you have logistics, handled by Cainiao. But Cainiao wasn't just a fleet of physical trucks like UPS. It was this massive, decentralized data network, organizing thousands of fragmented local couriers into one incredibly cohesive grid. And finally, you have finance, powered by Alipay. This is basically the digital blood flowing through the system, acting as the central bank of the ecosystem. These aren't just separate corporate departments. They're equal, interlocking gears of the exact same machine: transaction, delivery, payment.
By controlling all three of those pillars simultaneously, Alibaba pulled off something revolutionary. They literally removed every single friction point for the consumer. Think about it like going to a huge, chaotic shopping mall, right? But imagine having to use a different foreign currency for every single store you walk into, and then having to hire your own private taxi just to get your shopping bags home. That sounds awful. That's friction. Alibaba built the mall, they minted the universal currency, and they orchestrated the delivery fleet. By owning the storefront, the wallet, and the delivery route, they made sure the customer never actually had to leave their ecosystem. They created this perfectly smooth closed-loop environment.
Section 2, Solving the Trust Gap.
But here's the really fascinating part. That perfectly smooth engine, it couldn't just start on its own. Let's rewind the clock for a second and set the scene. Back in the early 2000s, the internet in emerging markets was very much the Wild West. And the stark reality was this: absolutely nobody in China trusted online shopping. The trust gap was just a massive chasm. In 2003, China was heavily a cash is king society. Face-to-face transactions were the gold standard, online consumer protection laws were basically non-existent, and early fraud was rampant. Buying something on a website essentially felt like throwing your cash into a black hole. I mean, why on earth would you wire your hard-earned money to a complete stranger on the internet and just pray a package shows up 3 weeks later? You wouldn't. Without trust, it didn't matter how beautiful the e-commerce website was. The whole ecosystem was dead on arrival. Enter Alipay. Now, today, we mostly think of Alipay as this massive digital wallet app. But in those early days, its main job was vastly more critical. It was a financial bodyguard. It acted as an escrow service. An escrow is just a system where a trusted third party holds the money until the buyer is completely satisfied. Alibaba stepped in and boldly told the Chinese consumer, hey, don't trust the seller, trust us. You give us the money, we'll lock it in a digital vault, and we will only release your funds to the seller after you get the package, inspect the goods, and actually tell us you're happy.
This right here is the absolute aha moment. It's the concept of trust as a service. Alibaba essentially manufactured trust out of thin air and injected it straight into a highly skeptical market. The psychological shift this caused was off the charts. Imagine going from assuming everyone on the internet is trying to scam you to feeling like a massive, well-funded corporation has your back on even a $5 purchase. It fundamentally rewired consumer behavior overnight. Once people realized their money was completely insulated from risk, the floodgates just opened. That escrow mechanic was the exact spark that ignited Alibaba's explosion, getting the e-commerce pillar of our iron triangle spinning at staggering speeds.
Section 3. Data as the glue.
Now, let's transition from the physical movement of goods and money to the invisible force that actually binds this entire ecosystem together today. Once that trust gap was solved, a crazy new byproduct emerged. Let's contrast a traditional retailer's mindset with Alibaba's ultimate strategy. A traditional store focuses almost entirely on the transaction, right? You buy a shirt, they make a profit. End of story. They might know what you bought. But Alibaba, because they control the search on Taobao, the payment on Alipay, and the logistics on Cainiao, they have this incredible 360-degree view of consumer behavior that a normal retailer could only dream of. They don't just know what you bought. They know exactly what you searched for before you bought it, how you prefer to pay, your financial standing, exactly where it was shipped. Selling the physical product is honestly just the bait. Capturing that insanely rich behavioral data is the real prize.
And this creates what we call a digital flywheel. Let's walk through this incredible self-reinforcing feedback loop. Step 1, the consumer clicks or searches for a product. Step 2, that exact behavioral data point is instantly captured across the iron triangle. Step 3, it feeds straight into their central nervous system. This is where it gets totally wild. Your buying habits on Taobao instantly update your credit scoring for financial loans through Ant Group. If you reliably buy premium goods and pay on time, boom, your digital credit limit goes up in real time. Simultaneously, this data refines their advertising engines. And finally, step 4, the entire ecosystem gets smarter. With every single click, search, purchase, and delivery, the machine learns. It becomes exponentially better at predicting what you want, optimizing the exact route to ship it to you faster, and extending you the precise amount of credit you might need to afford it. It's a perpetual motion machine entirely fueled by data.
Section 4. Beyond retail, building an environment. So let's zoom out for a second and look at the macro impact of this strategy. When you pull all these massive pieces together, the commerce, the logistics, the finance, and that relentless data loop connecting it all, you start to realize we are no longer talking about a simple retail company. Alibaba proved a fundamental law of the modern digital age. A platform becomes a true unstoppable powerhouse when it evolves from a standalone tool into a living, breathing environment. Think about it. eBay was a tool. It was a fantastic tool for peer-to-peer auctions, for sure. But you pick up a tool when you need it and you put it back in the toolbox when you're done. Alibaba built an environment. You don't use an environment, you live in it. It's sticky. It provides the digital roads, the banks, the local shops, the security forces. It is a place where every single piece reinforces the other, making it incredibly difficult and highly illogical for a user to ever want or even need to leave. Which brings us to the ultimate core lesson of the crocodile in the Yangtze River. Whether you're analyzing a massive tech giant, investing in a disruptive startup, or building your own business from the ground up, you have to ask yourself this fundamental question. Are you just building a tool, or are you architecting an environment? Because as Alibaba showed the entire world, tools might win the battle, but environments win the war. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you a powerful new lens to look at the digital platforms you interact with every single day.